Somebody sold you a bill of goods. At some point in your life, somebody told you the story and the narrative that your life had to go this way. Go to school, get the job, retire from the job, be grateful for the job and whatever they give you. Work to get the promotion, and that's all you can have. Work to try to retire, and once you retire, be so happy that you had this really long-standing career that you get some sort of gold watch. I don't think they do that anymore, but that used to be the narrative. Somebody sold you a bill of goods at some point in your life that was the path for you to feel successful and to live well in this world. What if I told you that that was a lie? What if I told you that the path that you are on right now in your professional career, in the way that you've built your life, was built on a flawed premise? It's built on some sort of cultural standard that somebody at some point in life decided was going to be it. And that is what we're supposed to follow as our way to our best life. But what if I told you that the way to your best life is as unique as your fingerprint? And if you don't know this, no two fingerprints on this planet are the same, not even your own 10. So if your fingerprints are that distinct, if your identity is that distinct inside of your DNA, what makes you think that somebody else can tell you how your life is best lived? So the end at the beginning, they can't. And that's kind of the whole thing. And that is why whatever the bill of goods was that you were sold, and to be honest, a lot of this is based on what era you were born in, what family you were born into, what social things became like your normative thing. Why? Because the people that care about you when you're being raised are the ones that kind of start to create this bill of goods that you are then sold throughout the course of your life. So what's the problem here? The problem here is now your life is based on this bill of goods that you've been sold. So if you are feeling completely unsettled in your life and in your skin, it's not in your imagination. It's real. You are unsettled in your own skin because the version of life that you are living is based on a flawed premise, based on this bill of goods that you were sold at some point in your life and in your history. That would all sound terrible, as though there's no way for you to get out of it. You just have to accept what you've been sold and move on from there. But I'm here to tell you that the conversation of uncultured is the counter-cultural conversation that goes against the status quo, because somebody has to come uproot this nonsense that has too many people in the world living out of sorts in their own lives. At the point where the data is telling us that 90% of people give up on their dreams, that only 23% of people are actually satisfied at the job that they are in. And that's just because they're saying that they are. Like, at the point where we are here, where the vast majority of humankind is completely unsettled in the lives that they are living in, and the lives that you are living in, that is telling us that everything that we've built is on a flawed premise. So we have to have this conversation about what are you willing to do to change the way that your life is built. It's enough to say that the reason why uncultured exists, it is to come challenge the status quo conversation around what it means for you to live a good life. Your definition of your good life is your definition to define. Only you can define it. Now, my hope is that you will base that definition on a divine premise, on a divine calling, on the thing that you feel deeply called by God to do in this world. Because once you align your life to that, there's nowhere for you to go but up. That is the best version of your life. Now, what does that require for you to make these kind of changes to challenge this status quo? It requires courage, sure. It requires a little bit of patience with yourself, and it requires that you give yourself a lot of grace. There's a version of your life that you need to live authentically, and it is the thing that is most honest and true for you. And without pursuing it, without doing that, without going after your version of freedom that includes location independence, you're always going to feel a little bit stuck and like something is missing. I want to personally invite you to take advantage of the Uncultured coaching community. It is the place where we are systematically getting you out of that life that has been according to the plan or the program, the one that you know you've outgrown, the one that no longer serves you where you are. And whether you're just discovering that by listening to this show, or it's something you've kind of known for a while, the Uncultured coaching community is your starting place to have location independence, to get more of your time freedom, and to start to get your life back. This is designed for you to be uncultured, for you to get off the plan and on the road that really has your freedom at its core. So that's why this conversation is important. The whole premise of being uncultured, of challenging the status quo, of examining your life with a different lens, one that is really tied into who you are on the inside of your body. That's why it's so important. It's not enough to just say, oh yeah, I don't like my life, so at some point, someday, maybe I will give myself permission to even consider what it looks like for me to have a different version of life. You actually can't afford to wait that long. And there are some of you that already know it. Like, you feel it. You've been feeling it. You've been feeling dissatisfied. You've been feeling sad every day. You have been struggling to get out of the bed. You have been knowing that you wanted to quit your job, and you don't see the way out, because the way out means going against the sale that you've been given with that bill of goods, right? The lie that you've been given. And I don't mean to say lie in such like an abrasive way, because realistically, the people that created the bill of goods to sell you that was in fact a lie, for them, it was based on their own bill of goods that is really just being brought forward for them from some other place or space. They watched something on TV, they saw something modeled for them that they do or don't want to be, and so they then pass that on to you. You have an opportunity now to really sit and consider what it feels like for you to live in a different version of your life, regardless of what you've been sold, regardless of what you've been exposed to. And yes, does it take a little bit of work? Sure. But that's why it's uncultured. That's why it's the uncommon conversation. That's why it's countercultural. It goes against probably everything you've been taught. And that's cool. There is a version of your life that doesn't feel out of sorts and out of whack, even if every day is not perfect, because I cannot promise you every day is a happy day. I cannot promise that. But what I can promise is that as you are moving into alignment, out of the thing that you've been sold, but into this countercultural conversation where you get to consider what it feels like for you to exist so much more fully as yourself. And I use the word authentically, so much more authentically as yourself, then now you get to live a life that, while every day is not perfect, you are feeling in alignment. Feeling in alignment and moving in alignment is the thing that gets you to those happy days. Because even when you have to navigate, even when you have to pivot, you are so clear about the direction of your life that the pivots don't take you backward. They're always taking you forward. Far too many people in the world hate their jobs. That's like the normal conversation. The normal conversation is, I hate where I work. I don't really like this. I'm not really satisfied. And God help me, the I wish I could are really the thing that are undoing the world, in my opinion, right? In my opinion, that's the thing that's undoing the world. So then if that's the overwhelming majority of the conversation, then something is broken in the way and what we're working for and what we're working toward. Something that I think about a lot is like, why are we working so hard for these versions of life that we don't even like in the first place? Like, there's something to be said for being honest enough that you can acknowledge you don't like the life that you are living in. So the counterculture is, the conversation itself is to challenge it. It's to say, what don't I like? And put everything on the proverbial chopping block so that you have the opportunity to create a life that you do get to love. The countercultural conversation is really, you deserve to live a life that you absolutely love. And that's really the truth. There's a part in scripture that says, I have come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. That is not the conversation of someone who has come to give you life miserably. Nowhere in there does it say, I've come to give you life miserably. That's not a thing. So the countercultural conversation is really one that's in alignment with your divine sensing, because the divine sensing is the thing that goes against the acceptance here. If we are accepting misery, that's against the divine sensing. If we are accepting a conversation that says it's okay to hate your job when God came to give you work that was in alignment with who he created you to be, then we need to have a different conversation, which is what makes it uncultured, the countercultural conversation. It's also a part in scripture that it says you are here to be in the world, but not of the world. That is countercultural. You're meant to be here to affect the world, but not necessarily to become fully indoctrinated into this misery. And still, there's so much data that just says people are miserable and nobody's trying to change that. So instead, what do? We medicate it. We prescribe more pills. we get more therapy. And I'm all for therapy. I'm actually all for pills. I'm all for both of these things. But there's a different way to go about this that requires us to uproot the narrative, to uproot the conversation that says hating your job is normal. Hating your life is just the side piece to hating your job. And like, you don't have to be happy. You don't have to really have a version of life that you feel good about. You just need to exist and get to the end. The end is retirement. And then, maybe in retirement, you can consider how your life can look and how your life can be. Waiting for some version of your life that is air quotes perfect when you're 65 is nuts. You're not here to live in misery for 45 years of your life. That's crazy business. And it's not about instant gratification. So let me be clear about that. It's definitely not about instant gratification. There's also places in the Bible that talk about suffering for a while. After you have suffered a while, then you will receive. That's very much, one of those things. Even in the scripture that talks about, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper, not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. That is a statement that is made after a prophecy of 70 years of captivity. It says 70 years of captivity you're going to have. Oh, but I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. So it's a balancing thing where it's like, yes, there will be times in your life where everything is not great and not perfect, and you will have to suffer a while in order for something to come and be full. But there's always a come and be full. If you are not willing to have the disruptive part of the conversation where you're not just operating in whatever somebody has handed you as like the way for you to have a successful life, if you're not working to be in alignment with the divine calling on your life, because you are here for a reason. If you're not working to be in alignment with that divine calling, then the suffering or the I don't like my lifing or the I don't like my jobbing will be purposeless. It will just be purposeless. There needs to be a reason for the momentary suffering, the momentary disillusionment, the momentary version of your life where things are not going great. If you are in alignment with your divine calling, then all of that serves a purpose. Suffering serves a purpose in God's divine economy, and it's, totally fine. It's going to be something that's going to work out for your benefit. But if you're not in that alignment, if you're not willing to have this countercultural conversation with yourself where you are challenging whether or not you have been eating the bill of goods that you've been sold and just building your life around that, or if you are just in a moment, I'm really interested to know how you've been challenging yourself. How have you been challenging the narrative of your life to see whether or not this moment that you're having is just a moment, to see whether or not you are living the version of your life that was divinely given to you or one that was just kind of handed to you, How have you been challenging yourself to determine that? I want to give you a few tools to challenge some of that. Tool number one is to literally just do an assessment of your life, right? So I went on TV not that long ago and I was talking about the formula that I have to change your life. And this is really partially that, to evaluate. I want you to think about your life. Do you love your life, including your job? Not separate. Not, oh, I love my life, I hate my job. It's not a real thing. It's not a real thing. You have one life. You're one person. You are one body. You are one mind. You are one. So if you do not like your job, you do not like your life, period. So that's disqualifier number one. You don't like your job. You don't like your life. Don't even try to sell me nothing else. That is it. So do you like your life? When you think about it, when you think about your day-to-day experience, including your job, do you like the life that you are living? Does it feel good on your skin? Are you having moments of just complete joy and happiness? Or are you really existing in a state of dread, in a persistent state where tomorrow feels awful and you're not even there. You're still in today. If that is you, first, I empathize with you, and trust me, I understand the feeling. I've been there. And I want to tell you that is really you being and existing out of divine alignment with your life. You are not meant to live a life in misery. That's not a real thing. And I don't care who around you has accepted that. Again, we're here for the counter-cultural conversation. Tool number 2 is for you to really read the scriptures that talk about who you were divinely created to be. You were not created to be a being in misery. You were created as a royal priesthood, a holy nation. You were created to be the lender and not the borrower. You were created to be the head and not the tail. You were created to be above and not beneath. You are created divinely in the image of God. Now, I'm not suggesting to you that God did not create his own image to suffer, because he definitely sent his son, Jesus Christ, to come down here and suffer for our salvation and our benefit. That is all true. But he did that so you would not have to. And yes, you will endure hardship in this world. That is not it. But the Bible talks deeply about hardship and suffering being used for character building. It is not just punishment. You are not here to just suffer for no reason at all. God is building your character. He is building your strength. He is building your stand and stick-to-itiveness in the situations that you find yourself in. So I want you to go scour the scriptures for things that reference who you were created to be. God created you in his image. He breathed his breath into you so that you could be a divine being on this planet, so that you could affect change, so that you could be here to live and operate in your purpose. And if nothing else, really lean into the scripture about knowing the plans that he has for you. No matter what has happened before now, God knows the plans that he has for you. He created you before you were formed in your mother's womb. God created you for something good and beautiful and resonant. And that is a tool. The scripture is a tool for you to utilize so that you can know who you were created to be. That's going to empower your countercultural conversation. This whole thing isn't going to stay in stasis by itself. You're going to have to feed it, right? Because we live in the world that is having the conversation where 90% of the people put their dreams down. They don't care. 77% of the working population is dissatisfied with the work that they are doing and the jobs that they are in. That is normal. So that is the culture we are in. In order for you to support the countercultural conversation, you're going to have to feed it with new information and tools, right? So the third tool that I want to give you is to recite your personal mantra. Every person on this planet should have some sort of mantra that governs their everyday. And if you are invested in uncovering kind of who you were intended to be and the life that you were meant for, if you are invested in this countercultural conversation, you've got to have a mantra to support that. Because every day you're going to be exposed to narratives, conversations, social media stuff that tells you it's okay to hate your job. You don't need to like it. You don't need to love your life, because none of these people do. Nobody loves their life. And so it's okay to feel suffering for no reason. It's okay to just kind of accept where you are. It's okay to not seek after what it is that God really wants you to do in this earth, even though there is a divine plan for your life. But it's okay for all those things to be true. So you've got to have a personal mantra. Your personal mantra can be a few different things. It can be some combination of scripture and motivational thing. It can be something you heard somebody say, but it's got to be the thing that level sets who you are in this world, and not just who you are, but that you are not meant to be part of this culture, this norm. We need to flip the norm. If we can get these numbers flipped the other way, I could die a happy person. But you've got to start with just you, right? So it has to be some sort of mantra, something that level sets you, something that kind of challenges you to stay connected to the countercultural conversation and reminds you that you are not regular. If regular is misery, if regular is accepting a job you don't love, if regular is just being miserable every day and just medicating out of the misery, you're not meant to be regular. You are here for the countercultural. You are here for something different. You are here to transition your life from accepting to thriving, from just thriving really to being intentional. From accepting to intentional is the way that we're looking to go, right? For you to be able to get into a much more intentional space about the life that you are living and the way that you get to experience every day. Hey, if you really enjoyed this conversation about the countercultural conversation, then consider giving this video a like. It really helps us out to know which content you all like to hear from us here at the Uncultured Show. It is so important to us that we create content for you that is meaningful, that moves the needle in your life, and that inspires you to challenge the status quo. Even if you've been doing it your whole life, something that inspires you to challenge the status quo. And if there's somebody that you can think of that is currently needing to challenge their status quo, consider sharing this video with a friend, subscribing to the channel, and just allowing us to continue serving you at a deep level. Remember, no matter where you are always just one intentional decision away from creating the best next version of your life, the one that you were always destined and always created to have.